You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Thanks to Concordia University, Wisconsin for supporting The Coffee Hour. Find out more about Concordia University, Wisconsin at cuw.edu.
Live uncommon.
We have an opportunity to serve international. And quite often when you think about serving international, you probably think, okay, that's probably like a pastor or a deaconess doing some teaching, preaching, mercy work. This is a really unique position.
Yes.
But we might not often think about it. We're going to learn more about that in just a moment. Our friends joining us today, Sam Borgwardt, Business Manager for the Asia region, the LCMS. Sam, welcome.
Thanks, Andy and Sarah. It's great to be here.
Also joining us today, Blake Warren, Director of the Office of International Mission Business Operations right here in St. Louis. Also former Business Manager in the Latin America and Caribbean region. Thanks so much for joining us today, Blake.
Thanks for having me back in the studio.
Absolutely. So let's start with Sam. Let's talk about your journey you joined the International Center not too long ago in the past, it was in 2022.
Yeah, it was actually Reformation Day 2022,
Hey.
Halloween. Yep.
Excellent.
Appropriate.
Yep.
So tell us about your professional journey that led up to your time here at the International Center.
Yeah, great question. So I've always been interested in international service. I guess I'd start actually in high school. I was very blessed to attend a Lutheran high school, which was Wells up in the Twin Cities area. Through high school, I was exposed to many international students. Because of that, I wanted to learn more about their culture, their background. So my school was very fortunate to have former Wells missionaries to Taiwan actually launch a Mandarin language program my junior year. Took it, fell in love with it, decided to run with it, and made that my undergrad major at the University of Minnesota. Upon graduation, was very blessed to receive a government scholarship for a master's program in Taiwan, completed that, and then worked in mainland China for a year with an organization there. And then after that, decided I wanted to be back in the States. So was employed with the AMC theaters at the corporate office in Kansas City, working as kind of a back-end business manager, coordinator, communications, all of the above, as AMC was owned by a Chinese corporation until 2021. In 2021, with the sale of AMC, a lot of my job went away. So I came upon a great opportunity managing international sales and export for a agriculture company based out of the Twin Cities. So I was doing that until this wonderful opportunity came along, threw my hat in the ring, and here we are.
You have a very interesting background, and it's just this position, this business manager position, is kind of just made for you, which is I always find it very cool how God just kind of puts people right where they need to be.
Well, and God really does give you the experiences and prepare you in life to serve him, whatever situation you might end up in. So looking back on the experiences I've had, you can really see how God has kind of shaped that and formed you for the position you're in.
Yeah, that's very cool. Blake, what about you? What was your life prior to LCMS business manager service?
Yeah, so my journey was a different one as well. I spent 10 years in the corporate world working in the casino industry. And so as part of the technology and emerging leaders program with one of the national casino chains, where I got to be taught in how to manage remote regional teams, how to look for operational efficiencies, start for international business, all which I thought was completely irrelevant to the work here. And our pastor had been a missionary in Venezuela for 20 years and got us involved in helping in the Dominican Republic. And we went down there on a trip, and they had an opening coming, and we laughed at the opportunity. Great career trajectory, had a wonderful home, loved our home church, but the Lord had other plans. And now I find that I have used my skills in managing remote teams, having regional operations, and looking for efficiencies to make our donor dollars go farther.
Wow.
It's so perfect.
So tell us about your time serving internationally when you were serving as the business manager in Latin America and Caribbean region.
Yeah, so I spent about 6 years as a business manager, 5 of them based in the Dominican Republic. And as I look at the highlights and the stories, it reminds me of the movie Forrest Gump. Got to be around some wonderful people and just happened to be in some major breakthroughs in the life of the mission, including a VDMA project that translated and distributed theological resources to over 200 pastors throughout Latin America, the curriculum development, formation, and construction of a regional seminary to serve the program, the formation of a deaconess program that continues to show mercy throughout Latin America and be connected to the church, and a extremely large disaster response program. Had a couple of them, but mainly one focused in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria, and has since served with various earthquakes and hurricanes.
Yeah, there's a lot that's happened on that Latin America field in the last several years, and you got to be on the field for a lot of that, which is really cool. I think the last time you were in studio, I think you were still serving on the field in the Dominican Republic. So a lot has happened since then too for you.
Yeah, and so I've been based in St. Louis for about 2 years. The ministry side, we kind of hit on some of the highlights. On the operational side, we've also work to form a better relationship between the 4 regions to support each other in ministry. We've gone over some system changes that allow us to be a little more efficient and understand how to operate and be able to respond to ministry quicker and support projects on the field. And I think we were up here for one of those conversion meetings that got to sit in here with you guys. And as I think back on my time, the coffee hour is a very fond memory, because that was what we listened to on the way to church, to and from church on the journey each day. In fact, my daughter's in the building serving last week, and she comes running over because there's a celebrity sighting, and she saw Andy Bates and Sarah Goldstedt. So this was the highlight of her month, I believe.
That's so awesome. I love hearing those stories. Sam, when we think about international mission, a lot of times, like Andy said, we think about the pastors, the deaconesses, the people that are maybe doing more of the frontline work and doing all of those things, but we might overlook all of the things in the background, all of those other people, like you guys as business managers who really help keep that mission work going. What are some of those needs across the regions?
Yeah, great question. So the role of the business manager, and frankly, any LCMS missionary, is to spread the gospel, plant churches, and show mercy in whatever context we might find ourselves in. In my experience, the average layman, average laywoman might not realize just how much goes on behind the scenes. And that's probably true of your local congregation as well. But there's such a need to augment the wonderful work that our pastors, our deaconesses, our educators are doing in their field of service. One need is making sure that they have the resources that they need to carry out the work that God has given them. And that's really where I, as the business manager, come in, make sure that they have what they need to do the work that they've been called to do. And in addition to the business manager, we have plenty of opportunities for other roles besides business managers. There's always room for communication experts, security experts, project managers, all supporting our missionaries, and frankly, our missionaries themselves, living out their vocation of sharing the gospel in whatever context they might find themselves.
I see you brought along your Bible.
Yes.
I did. I was going to wait until the end, but we could go ahead and dig into the Bible. It's always a good...
I'm just curious, as you were describing that, I was just thinking Acts chapter 6, the work that kind of happens maybe behind the scenes, or maybe the work that we don't think of, that the pastors are doing the work of preaching the word and prayer, but there was also a need for meeting the needs of the widows.
Yeah.
And the orphans, to make sure that they were cared for as well. So what were you going to share? You brought along your Bible to share something with us today.
Well, I was just going to reiterate that, we all have skills that God has blessed us with, or time, talent, treasure, whatever God has given us. And one skill that thankfully I am able to use in this role is I do speak Mandarin Chinese, which has been very helpful in being the business manager for Asia, as our regional headquarters is in Jiayi, Taiwan, under the leadership of Pastor Charles Ferry. And I just wanted to prove to our dear listeners that I'm not just full of coffee on the coffee hour by reading out John 3:16 in Mandarin. And it is 神爱世人，甚至将他的独生子赐给他们，叫一切信他的不至灭亡，反得永生. And I just love how they translate how it's translated into Mandarin as 神爱世人甚至, and it's roughly translated as God loved the world to the point of sending Jesus, his son. That's really powerful to me in that God's to the point was saving us through Christ. And so that makes me think, well, knowing that I'm a redeemed child of God because of what Christ has done, what's my to the point? How do I respond to that point of God of sending us Christ? What's my to the point? And quite frankly, it's serving in this role as the regional business manager. But then we all have our to the point, knowing that we're redeemed by Christ. What's our to the point? And so I just challenge our listeners, be a missionary in whatever context you're in your local congregation, in your family, where you work. Find your to the point and live out your vocation as a Christian.
We're learning about the work of business managers in LCMS International Mission today. We'll continue the conversation in just a moment. You're listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
At Concordia University, Wisconsin, we believe you were created for a reason: to use your God-given gifts to help others, to live a life of self-sacrifice in a me-first world, to live a life that's uncommon. Whether you're taking one of 50-plus online programs or learning with us in person on the shores of Lake Michigan, you'll be equipped to make an uncommon impact. Learn more at cuw.edu. Concordia University, Wisconsin. Live uncommon.
Welcome back to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Gulseth.
Today we're talking with Sam Borgwardt. He's the business manager for the Asia region of the LCMS International Mission, and also Blake Warren, director of Office of International Mission Business Operations here in St. Louis. He served also as business manager in Latin America and the Caribbean region for a while as well. Blake, share with us some of the duties or the responsibilities. What's the work of a business manager serving in the field today?
Yeah, Sam did a great job kind of walking through one of the main focus we have is to support the mission out there. And the framework that we use to articulate that is spreading the gospel, planting Lutheran churches, and showing mercy. And the role the business manager can play in that really breaks down into supporting of the missionaries, looking at financial and legal affairs. And so as we look at the financial side, the budgeting, the tracking of money, the disbursement of payments locally as well as internationally. On the legal side, immigration and visa, as well as setting up bank accounts and entities that enable us to do the work in those countries, whether that be a registered office, a NGO or non-government organization, or nonprofit. And then the main pleasure is supporting our dear missionaries that are out there, helping with their expenses, understanding the benefits that come to them, helping coordinate logistics to move themselves and their families around the world, get settled, and be able to be effective in their ministry.
Mm-hmm. And Sam, you're just a few months into this role, but what are some of the things that you've already been doing in this role? I know you've been in the IC with a couple of rounds of missionary orientation, and I get to sit right on the other side of international mission. So sometimes I hear some Mandarin happening behind me, and I'm like, oh, look, they must be doing some work on something.
Yeah, great question, Sarah. So just being a couple months in, 4 or 5 months into this role, it's really fascinating to see just how much we being the IC, our missionaries, do to spread the gospel, plant Lutheran churches, and show mercy. And I've been able to play a small role in that and just managing our budget right now. Mm-hmm. Somebody's got to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. And so I get to call our dear land bank in Taiwan. We have a bank account in Taiwan and coordinate some payments through them. So a lot of financial payments, management of that, making sure, again, it goes back to support and caring for our missionaries is really how I see this role. So making sure that whenever they have a need, I'm doing whatever I can to meet that need so that they can continue to do the work that God has given them. And quite frankly, being new, it's often, I don't know, but let me find out. And that's just wonderful to be in this initial onboarding and training based here at the IC, because everybody here does such a good job of spreading the gospel, planting Lutheran churches, and showing mercy, and is always willing to help out when I have questions.
Mm-hmm.
And are you excited about the next step? You get to deploy soon, is that right?
I am, yes. So I'm deploying at the end of March, end of this month, and it's starting to feel real, but a good real. It'll be good to be back in Taiwan and to start making those connections again and just spreading the gospel in every interaction that God gives me.
Now, Blake, it's my understanding that there is a need for more like Sam to serve in the field. What are the needs today in Office of International Mission serving deployed, particularly as business managers?
Yeah, so we have a couple opportunities available for immediate candidates. One would be a business manager in Latin America region. Another would be an associate business manager to work alongside Sam in Asia. And we're currently looking for other recent college graduates for either internships or 2-year engagements that could potentially work up into some of these roles that would manage the finances internationally.
Mm-hmm. So what are the skills needed? You've mentioned a lot of things regarding money. So I'm guessing financial or math. I would not be qualified for these positions. What kind of skills are needed for these business manager roles?
So one of the things we found is there's an increasing complexity to send people and money across international borders. And there are many reasons for that. Some of them are very good, meaning they crack down in human trafficking and terrorism, that there are a lot of money being laundered. As government agencies and small governments are able to wrap their head around that a little bit and get some systems in place, a lot of them aided by some of the relief handed out during COVID that allowed them to digitize. There is an ability to monitor funds and people that are coming in and out of a country. So we're looking for people that have the ability to work with a budget, work not necessarily as a legal expert, but to review some of the requirements, kind of go through a checklist. So while it's not required to have certain degrees, if you look at financial degree, so business degree in administration, finance, accounting, project managers tend to do very well. But we also have had some people that had wonderful skill sets with various language degrees and can walk through and translate. We used to joke that there are people that translate language and there's people that translate finance to others. So you're kind of doing a double translation sometimes.
Yeah, a lot of good skills and some great people that have served as business managers in the past as well. Sam, you said you were in the process of onboarding. What is some of that training that goes in once you have this position? What's some of that training that you've been going through here at the International Center?
Yeah, great question. I was very blessed that for the past 2 years, we've had an interim business manager for Asia, actually based in the U.S., but of course, supporting Asia, Mr. Dennis Fangman, who recently retired. But for the past couple of months, I've just been onboarding with him, gaining experience and knowledge that he's gained throughout his career. The biggest thing I have learned is a lot of the accounting, which it's funny your comment earlier, Sarah, like on math. I'm similar. Like I was told there would be no math, but here I am. And I would say that yes, we do want people that know numbers and know budgets. That's critical, but don't let that scare you. You can learn that rather quickly, as I've been able to learn it in a couple months. So don't let that scare you if you think of this as a service opportunity. Yeah, it's just been a lot of finance, budgeting, and accounting these past couple of months, which is good.
Like, what else do we need to consider? Does one need to consider when thinking about serving internationally as a business manager?
The move to serve and live internationally is a major one, but it comes with a lot of benefits, and the Lord has blessed a lot of missionaries that have previously served, currently are serving, and will serve in the future. And as we look at our team and our makeup, one of the advantages we have with some standardized systems is the ability to train and help each other. So being able to onboard people with skill set in the tactical items they have to do, but knowing that there's a large group of people that will be behind you to help learn a language, understand what it takes to move international, learn a culture, get adapted, and to be able to work for an organization that allows you to take time and focus on that, because that really breeds into how you do everything you do. Pastor Ted Cray, who I worked with in Latin America, always said language is that key to culture. So once you have that key, you can start unlocking to find out not just the words people are saying, but what they actually mean by it. And then from the business side, how do you take those skills and understand where we're trying to go in ministry and pave that path ahead of the missionaries coming so that they are able to take advantage of those opportunities the Lord puts in front of them.
You mentioned earlier the need for one to serve in Latin America and the Caribbean, correct?
Yeah, and well, just to get back into our overall, words are important and the Lord will provide. So we try to say we don't have a need, but we have opportunities where the Lord has placed a big opportunity in front. Our current regional business manager, John Tape, will be transitioning out. And so someone to backfill his role that he has taken what I have left under my previous service in Latin America and taken it many steps farther, looking for someone else to come be based in the Dominican Republic, working day to day. They'd be handling money, working with projects, and really enabling the work to continue in that region.
Tell us about some of the other business managers in the LCMS who are serving internationally and how they might be a resource to our friend Sam, who's going out into the field.
Yeah, so we meet every Tuesday. It's one of the benefits and highlights. We had a group of 3, Joyce Erber, who has served in Africa for a number of years, as well as Herman Strozier, based in Prague. And then we have an associate business manager, Mike Maurizio, based out of Italy. They're able to kind of interact and really help each other work through that. So as we look at what Sam will have available for him, not only some formal support up the chain of questions, but also some peer support to say, hey, I'm just not getting this, and maybe I'm afraid to ask the question to another person, and having somebody to really understand what does it mean to not only have 2 hours worth of work you've got to squeeze in an hour, but to do it when the power is going in and out, or to do it when you're not able to get a hold of the people you need to because you're in a different time zone, and just really relate to when you're struggling with culture shock and going through that. Someone said, hey, I've been there, I understand, and can really encourage. And
Sam, I know you've got to practice your Mandarin. It sounds like a little bit here at the International Center. Are you looking forward to being able to practice every day, all day long?
I am, yeah, Andy. Great question, great statement. Definitely looking forward to it, and really looking forward to, just living out my Christian vocation in Mandarin, if that makes sense. Because one of the requirements that we do have of missionaries is that they're LCMS members, and that's no exception to the regional business manager roles. So our support staff are missionaries, and they live out their Christian vocation as missionaries in the language that they're serving in. So definitely looking forward to getting back to Taiwan and continuing to serve the Lord in, frankly, whatever situation I find myself in.
I'm looking forward to hearing some of those stories after you've been on the field for a little while. We love talking to missionaries once they've been on the field and hearing some of the things that you're able to do. So looking forward to a future conversation with you, Sam, after you've been on the field for a little while.
Thank you.
Blake, how can people apply for these opportunities that are available?
Yeah, so the LCMS website has 2 of the positions posted. If you're interested in serving as a regional business manager for Latin America or the associate business manager for Asia, you can go to lcms.org. Under serve, there's an opportunity for career options. There's also a job posting there called LCMS Missionary. So if you're interested in missionary work in general, whether that be in a business role or other, that information gets over to Dr. Mark Raby, who's our recruitment director, and they'd be happy to follow up and have a conversation.
Our guest today, Sam Borgwardt, business manager for the Asia region. Sam, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was great to be here.
And Blake Warren, director of the Office of International Business Operations. Thanks so much, Blake, for being our guest.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You've been listening to The Coffee Hour. I'm Andy Bates.
I'm Sarah Golseth.
The Coffee Hour with Andy and Sarah is a production of KFUO. To support The Coffee Hour and KFUO Radio, visit KFUO.org. You can also text KFUO to 41444 or send an email to gifts@kfuo.org. And you can call us at 800-844-0524. KFUO. Christ for you, anytime, anywhere.